Welcome. Merry Christmas.
I got that, by the way. It's probably on in everybody's house, just not here.
Oh, there we go.
There we are. Everybody saw it, yeah, just not you.
Welcome to the December 20th, 2018 meeting of the Murfreesboro City Council. I'm going to do the prayer and the pledge tonight, if you'll bow with me. Father, I thank you for this chance that we get to come tonight, that we get to not only represent this city, that we get the opportunity to be able to Lord, try to improve things here, not just in Murfreesboro, but in Rutherford County. We come at this special time of the year that we get to give thanks for so many things, but most of all for your birth. I thank you for what you're doing. I pray for those that are less fortunate. I pray for our emergency service providers. I pray for every single employee that's in this city that continues to make Murfreesboro what it is. Lord, be with us and bless us. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. We don't have any ceremonial items tonight, so we'll move straight into our consent agenda.
Nobody's got any questions. I'll move for approval. Second.
Motion is second. Ms. Wright, if you'll please call the roll.
Vice Mayor Skels Harris.
Aye.
Mr. LaLance.
Aye.
Mr. Martin.
Aye.
Mr. Shacklet.
Aye.
Mr. Smotherman.
Aye.
Mayor McFarland.
Aye. We'll move into the approval of the minutes for the November 29th regular meeting, the December 6th special meeting, the December 6th regular meeting, and the December 12th regular meeting. Are there any additions or deletions to the minutes?
If none, I'll move for approval.
Second.
Motion is second. Ms. Wright, please call the roll.
Vice Mayor Skels Harris.
Aye.
Mr. LaLance.
Aye.
Mr. Martin.
Aye.
Mr. Shacklet.
Aye.
Mr. Smotherman.
Aye.
Mayor McFarland.
Aye. All right, we'll move into old business. And we have a budget amendment ordinance 18066 from Finance. We need a motion to approve the revised attachment A.
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second. Ms. Wright?
Vice Mayor Skels Harris.
Aye.
Mr. LaLance.
Aye.
Mr. Martin.
Aye.
Mr. Shacklet.
Aye.
Mr. Smotherman.
Aye.
Mayor McFarland.
Aye. Now we'll need a motion to approve, and this will be second and final reading.
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second. Ms. Wright?
Vice Mayor Skels Harris.
Aye.
Mr. LaLance. Mr. Martin.
Aye. Yep.
Mr. Shacklet.
Aye.
Mr. Smotherman.
Aye.
Mayor McFarland.
Aye, and this is as amended.
Yes.
We'll move into new business, and we have updates to the city ordinance 18070, section 2147. This is first reading for Parks and Rec. I think, Adam, you've got...
I'm sorry, I got ahead of ourselves there. The 18070, which deals with Parks and Recreation, closing hours for Civic Plaza City Parks and parking lots. There had been a typo in section D. And it's been the hours. Civic Plaza had been closed between the hours of 9 p.m. and 7 a.m. And then there was a second reference to time, and in what you had passed on first reading last time, it had said 9 p.m. to 6 a.m. We've corrected that, so it should be 9 p.m. to 7 a.m., and that's what's before you now.
Move for approval.
Second.
Motion is second. That's right.
Vice Mayor Skels Harris.
Aye.
Mr. LaLance.
Aye.
Mr. Martin.
Aye.
Mr. Shacklet.
Aye.
Mr. Smotherman.
Aye.
Mayor McFarland.
Aye. We'll now look at adoption of the current code additions, ordinance 18071, first reading. This is the Building and Codes Department. Ms. Schultz.
Thank you, Mayor and council members. The ordinance you have before you today is to adopt new building codes for the city of Murfreesboro. Those codes would include the International Building Code, Fire Code, Residential Building Code, Plumbing Code, and Mechanical, Fuel Gas, Swimming Pool, Existing Building Code, Property Maintenance Code, National Electric Code. You may be aware the city of Murfreesboro holds 3 exemptions from the state for commercial plans review, residential permitting and inspections, and electrical permitting inspections. To keep these exemptions, we have to keep our codes, adopted codes, within 7 years current of the most recently published codes. Our energy code is out of date, and the National Electric Code is going to be out of date before long. Ourselves, Smyrna, Laverne, Rutherford County all decided to update all our codes at one time. We have met with the Rutherford County Home Builders Association. We've had one meeting yesterday with the contractors, had about 50 in attendance. We got 3 more planned in January, discuss the code changes. So before you is that ordinance. If you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer them. Carl Pease with Fire and Rescue is here if you have any questions for him.
Move for approval. Yep, second.
Motion is second. Ms. Wright?
Vice Mayor Skels Harris.
Aye.
Mr. LaLance.
Aye.
Mr. Martin.
Aye.
Mr. Shacklet.
Aye.
Mr. Smotherman.
Aye.
Mayor McFarland.
Aye. Thank you, Ms. Schultz. All right, we'll move into land use matters. We have annexation progress reports, 2018 S-104, a public hearing, and this is our planning department.
Good evening, Mayor McFarland and members of council. Public Chapter 1101 of 1998, enacted by the General Assembly, requires that 6 months after the effective date of an annexation and annually thereafter until services have been extended according to such plan, a municipality must publish in a newspaper of general circulation a progress report of the extension of services and any changes proposed therein. The annexation ordinances in your council communication memo have been effective for at least 1 year. To date, all services have been extended according to the plan of services adopted for each of the areas, and no changes to such plans are proposed. Pursuant to state law, we do need to conduct a public hearing on these annexation progress reports, and if it pleases the council, staff would recommend that after the public hearing that you pass a motion to approve the annexation progress reports as submitted. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
All right. So we need to hold a public hearing, correct, Mr. Plumley?
Yes, sir.
All right. I'm going to open the public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak for or against these annexation reports or let us know any information, please come to the podium. All right. Seeing none, we'll need to get a motion to approve these reports.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and second. Ms. Wright, please call the roll.
Vice Mayor Skels Harris.
Aye.
Mr. LaLance.
Aye.
Mr. Martin.
Aye.
Mr. Shacklet.
Aye.
Mr. Smotherman.
Aye.
Mayor McFarland.
Aye. Now we'll need to schedule a public hearing for a few more annexation reports.
Yes, sir. Mayor McFarland, this is our last batch of annexation progress reports for the time being, and I must give a big thank you to Amelia Kerr and Austin Cooper on our staff who have done yeoman's work trying to catch up with all of the annexation progress reports that we've had over about the last 4 or 5 years. And as you can see, we've had a slew of progress reports come to you over the last few months, and they've worked very hard on those, so and we appreciate that. We would recommend scheduling this last round of progress reports for a public hearing on January the 17th. We already have public hearings scheduled on the 17th, so that will just be one additional public hearing that night. Be happy to answer any questions.
Can we get a motion to set the public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and second. Ms. Wright, please call the roll.
Vice Mayor Skels Harris.
Aye.
Mr. LaLance.
Aye.
Mr. Martin.
Aye.
Mr. Shacklet.
Aye.
Mr. Smotherman.
Aye.
Mayor McFarland.
Aye. Mr. Plummer, we have some other public hearings we need to schedule.
Yes, sir, we do. These are the 5 public hearings recommended to you for approval by the Planning Commission after they held a public hearing on December the 5th. Staff would recommend that you schedule these 5 public hearings for your January 31st, 2019 meeting, if it pleases the council. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
So we have a,
January 31st.
I think you said 19th?
January 31st.
31st.
Are you ready for a motion for that? We just need a motion for it to set them?
Yes, sir, just a motion to schedule the public hearings, and we believe that all 5 of those public hearings can be accommodated in one evening.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and second. Ms. Wright?
Vice Mayor Skels Harris.
Aye.
Mr. LaLance.
Aye.
Mr. Martin.
Aye.
Mr. Shacklet.
Aye.
Mr. Smotherman.
Aye.
Mayor McFarland.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Plumley. All right, we'll now move to items on motion. We have a tub grinder bid from Solid Waste.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. I come for you, we have put out for bid, unfortunately, a replacement for our Hogzilla tub grinder, which served us for 14 years and 3 months. Bids, is what we try to do as much. We've had it since we had the original one in 2004, and we probably have. I know during the Good Friday tornado and everything, we ground over 46,000 tons of material that year, just from the tornado and just from stuff. And this year we're going to be about 37,000 tons because we have been very fortunate. No storm. So we pray. We do not do rain dances or anything at the solid waste department this time of year. Right now we're doing the leaves and brush and everything. And just to give you a little bit of a background, with the purchasing department, we put the bids out. We received the bids, and we are now coming for you to give you the recommendation of the winner of the bid. It's my recommendation that we go with C.W. Meal out of Sabatha, Kansas. It takes about almost 12 months to build one because this is not one of these just they don't build tub grinders the way they commercial grade ones. The engine's about 1,000 horsepower, so it's going to be a little bit different in design than the one that we have, but it's a Tier 4. Still comes with the throw shield and with our fire repressant system that somehow, in our last one, we don't know exactly what happened to that. But I'll be glad to answer any questions.
Is it accurate that the expense for this was already budgeted in for 2018 for replacement of this machine?
Oh, yes, sir. We had this in the CIP. I put that in probably about 2 years ago. Luckily for me that I do have I have contacts with CAT because the big part of the biggest expense on this tub grinder, other than the steel with the steel tariffs, is the engine itself. It's probably close to about between $250,000 to $275,000 with the new Tier 4, brand spanking new. Meets all the new environmental air quality controls and all that. But it was budgeted almost 2 years ago into this CIP.
Thank you.
Any questions for Mr. Smith?
I move for approval if there are no other questions.
Second.
Motion is second. Ms. Wrightfield, please call the roll.
Vice Mayor Skels Harris.
Aye.
Mr. LaLance.
Aye.
Mr. Martin.
Aye.
Mr. Shacklet.
Aye.
Mr. Smotherman.
Aye.
Mayor McFarland.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we now have an ESG gas conversion for Murfreesboro Fire and Rescue Department, facilities maintenance. Who's presenting this?
Sorry.
Oh, no worries.
Good evening, Council. What we have in front of you is replacement of electric bay heaters at the fire departments, stations 2, 5, 8, 9, and 10. This is an electric to gas conversion. Should save the city about $10,000 annually. The money is there from ESG prior funds.
Any questions?
Total cost is $74,000. I'll move for approval.
Second. Motion is second. Ms. Wright, please call the roll.
Vice Mayor Skels Harris.
Aye.
Mr. LaLance.
Aye.
Mr. Martin.
Aye.
Mr. Shacklet.
Aye.
Mr. Smotherman.
Aye.
Mayor McFarland.
Aye. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, we'll move to a contract with Spyglass Group, LLC, for professional telecommunications auditing services. This is IT. Mr. Lilly.
Good evening, Mayor McFarland, Vice Mayor Skels Harris, and members of City Council. Most of the city communications are made using telephony, internet, and cellular services. We pay bills monthly to maintain each service. Cost of service can change frequently. Bill auditing is recommended to prevent potential billing errors and overcharging. It's the recommendation of the Information Technology Department that the council approve the Spyglass auditing firm to audit our telecom bills to ensure cost efficiency. There are no upfront costs for this service. Compensation is structured solely on the percentage of recovery or savings. I open for any questions.
No questions. I'll move for approval.
Second.
Motion is second. Ms. Wright?
Vice Mayor Skels Harris.
Aye.
Mr. LaLance.
Aye.
Mr. Martin.
Aye.
Mr. Shacklet.
Aye.
Mr. Smotherman.
Aye.
Mayor McFarland.
Aye. Thank you, Mr. Lilly. I think you're next. We have Small Government Enterprise Software License Agreement with ESRI.
Okay. Our GIS division currently uses an application called ArcGIS, which is owned and maintained by Environmental Systems Research Institute, or ESRI. This software is a license-based solution, and licenses are needed to program and access this GIS mapping environment. The Information Technology and Water Resources currently pays a portion of a county-wide enterprise license agreement, or ELA, to Rutherford County Technical Services for the city's use of the mapping software. ESRI now offers a small government model license agreement that will provide more use of the current product at a lower cost. Moving to the small government ELA will lower our yearly expense by $49,220. It is the recommendation of the IT department that the City Council approve the small government ELA contract with ESRI. I open for any questions.
There's no questions. I move for approval.
Second. Motion is second. Ms. Wright?
Vice Mayor Skels Harris.
Aye.
Mr. LaLance.
Aye.
Mr. Martin.
Aye.
Mr. Shacklet.
Aye.
Mr. Smotherman.
Aye.
Mayor McFarland.
Aye. Thank you, Mr. Lilly. Thank you. All right, we'll now move to Parks and Recreation and McKnight Maintenance Building Construction. Mr. Williams.
Thank you, Mayor, members of council. It's been the works for some time to move our maintenance operation out of the old Courier building at 315 Tommy Martin Drive. Our plan has been to move and separate these facilities into two separate locations, one at Old Fort Park and one at McKnight Park. We think this will help with increasing efficiency and effectiveness of our maintenance teams. During the planning process, the opportunity presented itself to move part of our crew over to the old Urban Environmental Building at Old Fort Park, which we're currently at. So we decided to open bids for the McKnight facility. So we had 5 companies submit prices. The original bid came back from Boyce Ballard at $935,700. Staff have worked diligently to value engineer that down to $857,500. So total project costs, including FF&E, information technology, security services, and a 5% contingency budget, bring the total project to $968,730. Funds are allocated in 2016 and 2018 bond money. I'd be glad to answer any questions that you may have.
Mr. Williams, the original design was to have 2 of these buildings, and as you mentioned, we used the urban environmental space. Is the additional single building the same single building of the 2, or has it changed in any way based on the move to urban environmental?
Minimal changes. The design has been the same basically from the very beginning for McKnight Park. It's smaller. Okay. I think it's 5,200 square feet facility.
There was substantial value engineering done. The original bid on these 2 buildings over $1.2 million for each building, and Mr. Williams, Ms. Jackson, Mr. Whitaker, working all together, were able to value engineer that building. So we went from more than $2.6 million for the 2 buildings to just slightly more than $850,000 for the 1 building. But I think and able to serve all the needs that they have for these two facilities.
Outstanding. Thank you, guys.
Mr. Mayor, if council votes to approve this, it should be approved subject to final approval, legal's final approval of the agreement with the contractor. We're pretty close to finalizing it, but we have a few I's and T's to take care of.
I'll make the motion to approve, subject to legal's approval.
Second.
Motion and second. Ms. Wright, please call the roll.
Vice Mayor Skels Harris.
Aye.
Mr. LaLance.
Aye.
Mr. Martin.
Aye.
Mr. Shacklet.
Aye.
Mr. Smotherman.
Aye.
Mayor McFarland.
Aye. Thank you, Mr. Williams. Thank you all for your hard work. Energy, Land, and Infrastructure LLC, work authorization number 5. Mr. Griffith.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. I do have work authorization number 5 with ELI for the Northfield Boulevard extension. This is primarily for the construction admin, and we did add some survey and design work to their contract as well. This total is an amount of $71,820 with funding source for the project will come from the land sale with Vanderbilt. I'm happy to answer any questions you have.
Any questions?
There's no questions. I'll move for approval.
Second.
Motion and second. Ms. Wright.
Vice Mayor Skels Harris.
Aye.
Mr. LaLance.
Aye.
Mr. Martin.
Aye.
Mr. Shacklet.
Aye.
Mr. Smotherman.
Aye.
Mayor McFarland.
Aye. Mr. Griffith, we'll let you go again and talk about Robert Rose at Thompson Lane Improvements Design Contract.
Yes, this is also a design contract with ELI. They do quite a bit of our structural design, and this will include a retaining wall and extension of a box culvert. This will basically be adding a right turn lane to Robert Rose there at Thompson Lane, which is one of our worst backup areas. ELI proposes to do the design in the amount of $84,370. This council previously approved the funding of this project, or the design of this project, through the congested hotspot program, and then the construction funds would actually be from next year's CIP. With that, I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Any questions?
I'll move for approval.
Second. Motion and second. Ms. Wright.
Hey, Chris.
Vice Mayor Skels Harris.
Aye.
Mr. LaLance.
Aye.
Mr. Martin.
Aye.
Mr. Shacklet.
Aye.
Mr. Smotherman.
Aye.
Mayor McFarland.
Aye. And Mr. Griffith, did we skip Energy, Land, and Infrastructure? I thought we did that one, didn't we?
33.
Third.
33.
Northfield
Oh,
Boulevard.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I apologize. I thought we, Northfield Boulevard Extension Phase 1 engineering.
That's okay, yes. One was for the engineering, the other was for construction. So
Sorry.
That's perfectly fine.
We'd hate to engineer something and then not build it. So,
A bit of a waste of money.
yeah.
The phase of Northfield Boulevard will extend from Garrison Drive to Thompson Lane. Staff advertised the contract, and 3 bids were received on October 11th of this year. The low bid in the amount of $2,481,458 was submitted by Rosso LLC. We recommend approval of this contract and move forward with the construction, with the primary funding source being from the Vanderbilt land sale. With that, I'll be happy to answer any questions.
I'm going off memory, but when we sold that property, did we not estimate that we were only going to have like $1 million or $1.2 million in road cost?
We originally used $1,000 a linear foot to estimate the road cost, and it was about $1.75 million, as I remember. Unfortunately, it's just construction costs have grown just in that time frame. This one actually came in at about $1,500 a linear foot.
And how many lanes is it?
It's 5 lanes.
Okay.
What are the, I think we talked about this before, but, as far as my concerned with the reality of building the bridge from the actual end of Northfield across all that stuff and meeting up with this. And do we need 5 lanes? If that never happens, do we still need 5 lanes right there? I mean, to go from that quarter mile or whatever it is.
Probably not. If it was just a standalone road, you would probably just be looking at just a 3-lane section. Just with the curb and gutter, it's just very difficult to add lanes after the fact. It becomes pretty, not cost prohibitive, but it's very costly. So with that, we made the decision just to move forward with the 5-lane section. You're looking at about cost difference about $1,500 a linear foot versus $1,000 a linear foot for a 3-lane section. So it is a change to the cost. We do not, regarding the bridge over the railroad and the river, we do not have any plans to move forward with that at this time. But we think, as the Murfreesboro continues to grow, it may be something we look at in the future.
I'm sorry I didn't catch this before, just right now. I apologize for not asking earlier.
About a 30% savings if you were to go with 3 lanes.
Oh, yeah. 35.
But with it being a hospital, if there's an accident on it, you're going to have a situation that we've got with Medical Center Parkway of no emergency lanes and no side lanes, and that may be justification for 5 lanes in its own right if you look at perhaps some of our past history and not preparing roadways. I mean, it's right next to a hospital. I mean, there's certainly going to be traffic going to and from that roadway that's going to, in the event of an emergency, still need access through that area. So it probably justifies it.
And even though we don't have immediate plans, maybe 10 years from now or whatever, there are plans. So, all right. I'll move for approval.
Second. Motion is second. Ms. Wright, please call the roll.
Vice Mayor Skels Harris.
Aye.
Mr. LaLance.
Aye.
Mr. Martin.
Aye.
Mr. Jacklet.
Aye.
Mr. Smotherman.
Aye.
Mayor McFarland.
Aye. Mr. Griffith, did I miss anything that you?
That's it. Got it. Thank you
No
very
change
much.
orders?
No. I wanted you to have a Merry Christmas.
It is. Merry Christmas. All right.
That helps.
We'll now move to right-of-way acquisition services for Mercury Boulevard Sidewalk Project Phase 1 from Broad Street to Middle Tennessee Boulevard. Mr. Kerr.
Good evening, Mayor and members of the council. Have before you to consider consulting contract for services necessary to initiate the Mercury Boulevard sidewalk right-of-way phase. Staff recommends approval of the following contracts: appraisal services contract with Property Group and a review appraisal service contract with Rhett Turner and Associates. Give you a little background. November of 2018, the city, through small purchasing procedures, requested and received letters of interest and qualifications from acquisition firms to provide right-of-way services for approximately 22 tracts consisting of 21 slope easements and 1 right-of-way acquisition along the Mercury Boulevard corridor. Based on qualifications and TDOT's pre-qualifications list, the firms were selected for each of their distinct roles. The city has recently received the notice to proceed for right-of-way phase for the Mercury Boulevard project. This is phase 1, of course. When federal dollars are involved in the construction of the project, the Uniform Act processes and procedures are required. This policy requires separation of duty between appraisal, review appraisals, and negotiation services. Thus requiring the need for the 2 firms. The city will be providing the negotiation services on this project. Council's priorities serve are safe and livable neighborhoods, strong and sustainable financial and economic health. Physical impact, contract with Property Group for appraisal service are estimated to be about $38,250. Contract with Rhett Turner and Associates for review appraisal service are estimated to be about $53,200. The city is anticipating several of these tracts will fall under a nominal payment parcel, or NPP. As such, the appraisal and review appraisal services should reduce. Right-of-way costs will be funded by the city at 100% and is currently programmed in the CIP. I'm available for any questions.
Any questions for Mr. Kerr?
No questions, I'll move for approval.
Second.
Motion is second. Ms. Wright, please call the roll.
Vice Mayor Skels Harris.
Aye.
Mr. LaLance. Mr. Martin.
Aye.
Mr. Shacklet.
Aye.
Mr. Smotherman.
Aye.
Mayor McFarland.
Aye. We'll now move to a contract with S&W Contracting, Inc. for the annual traffic signal maintenance contract.
The staff would recommend approval of the contract between the City of Murfreesboro and S&W Contracting. To give you a little background, staff advertised and opened 2 bids for the annual traffic signal maintenance contract. This contract is typically used for installation and maintenance of traffic signals, school zone signs, city maintained street lights, fiber optic communication of the 155 signalized intersections. The contract is a 3-year agreement, renewable up to 1 2-year option period after the original award, if agreed upon by both parties. The low bid was received from S&W Contracting in the amount of $204,400. Council priorities served are safe and livable neighborhoods. The physical impact, the primary funding source for the city's maintenance, traffic signal maintenance program is from general fund with a portion from state street aid. With that, I will answer any questions you may have.
If there are no questions, I'll move for approval.
Second.
Motion and a double second. Ms. Wright, please call the roll.
Vice Mayor Skels Harris.
Aye.
Mr. LaLance.
Aye.
Mr. Martin.
Aye.
Mr. Shacklet.
Aye.
Mr. Smotherman.
Aye.
Mayor McFarland.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kerr. All right, we have a few beer permits tonight.
Yes, Mayor, we have a regular permit for a new location at 1411 South Church Street for a new grocery market type business. And we have 3 special event permit requests from the Discovery Center for some fundraisers they have coming up in 2019. Everything has met our requirements. The new market does need to finish their building codes licensing inspections, but other than that, everything else meets our requirements. If you approve it tonight, we'll issue those permits once they have fulfilled the inspections.
Any questions?
I'll move for approval.
Second.
Motion is second. Ms. Wright?
Vice Mayor Skels Harris.
Aye.
Mr. LaLance.
Aye.
Mr. Martin.
Aye.
Mr. Shacklet.
Aye.
Mr. Smotherman.
Aye.
Mayor McFarland.
Aye. Have one recommendation for an appointment to the electric licensing board. Stan Harvey retired from the construction industry and has resigned from the board. Ricky Greenberg holds both a general contractor's license and an electrical license. He's agreed to serve on the electrical licensing board.
Move for approval.
Second.
Motion second.
Vice Mayor Skels Harris.
Aye.
Mr. LaLance.
Aye.
Mr. Martin.
Aye.
Mr. Shacklet.
Aye.
Mr. Smotherman.
Aye.
Mayor McFarland.
Aye. Any statements that need to be paid?
No, Mayor.
All right. Mr. Ives, I think you have some other business.
I do have one item of other business. The city has need to have a gas line run from Memorial Boulevard to the east in order to serve the new maintenance facility at McKnight Park and also to serve the new TDK hangar that's about to be completed at the airport. We have been working for some time on a route that has now been established, and we request your approval of a gas line easement to Atmos Gas for the installation of that line. Planning Commission addressed this last night and recommended approval.
If there are no questions, I'll move for approval.
Second.
Motion is second.
Vice Mayor Skels Harris.
Aye.
Mr. LaLance.
Aye.
Mr. Martin.
Aye.
Mr. Shacklet.
Aye.
Mr. Smotherman.
Aye.
Mayor McFarland.
Aye. Do we have any other business?
If I could, Mayor, since it's the last meeting of this year, I wondered if we could take just a few minutes and go through the calendar for January for meetings, so everybody's on the same page. First week of January, of course, is 2 days worth of holidays, so we probably will not meet on the 3rd unless council has a need to. The next week, on the 9th of January, would be a workshop. And the first council meeting of the new year would be the 17th. There's public hearings scheduled. We'll look at the 24th, but we will have a meeting and decide during that week if we'll have a meeting on the 24th. We will have a meeting on the 31st because we have public hearings scheduled for that date.
Okay.
And with that, Merry Christmas and Happy New Year.
Early meeting will be on the 17th?
The 17th would be a meeting, yeah, a regular meeting.
Yeah,
That's the 3rd.
9th is workshop.
Oh,
That's
for public comment?
Public comment,
Yeah. Yeah. That'll be a public comment.
17th?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I have one non-controversial item under other business. I wanted to let y'all know. I was walking the other night and just noticing streetlights that were out and trying to talk to PD at Murfreesboro Electric. We're trying to find a way that you could inventory streetlights that were out. So we have a very capable police department that drives a lot of our neighborhoods at night. So I've asked Mr. Tyndall to come up and work with our police department and MED to come up with some kind of program that we can identify streetlights that are out. And then that way we can let MED know when there's an issue. And so I think they're going to work on some kind of creative way to also incentivize the police department to be able to come up with some kind of safety program for the first quarter to get our street lights replaced if there's issues throughout the city.
That's great.
So, any other business? All right, we want to wish everyone a Merry Christmas. We'll say this is our first meeting without Miss Machoto. It's weird seeing someone not sitting down there after 36 years. So, Ms. Machoto, I know you are not watching this tonight. So if you go back and DVR or whatever, Merry Christmas, and we miss you. So with that, we stand adjourned.